It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero. It's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of this book right now where you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to Amazon.com. And today's show is also being brought to you in part by BillyCBoxing.com. That's right. Check out BillyCBoxing.com if you're looking to get caught up on all the latest boxing news and maybe not some of the biggest headline news that you see, but what's going on in the boxing world. Check it out. We only keep what's pertinent to the sport of boxing up there, and once it's done, we take it on down. So check that out, and also don't forget to follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. I started this Instagram. I'm not really sure about that. It's sort of like instant oatmeal. I don't know, but check us out and all that happy stuff. All right. Coming up in a little bit, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on the big fight schedule for this weekend. Pay-per-view, Canelo Alvarez going up against Jaime Munguia, or Munguia. I'm going to have Alex Pierpaoli on in a little bit, and I'm sure he'll be pronouncing the name right. I get criticized for mispronouncing his name all the time, but I think it's Munguia. I remember in Spanish, somebody was explaining to me how to say it. But anyway, I just want to get you caught up on a couple of things real quick. This past weekend, former super lightweight champ Jose Ramirez improved to 29-1 with 18 knockouts when he scored a 12-round decision over Rancis Barthelemy. Took place in California. 119-108, 119-109, 118-110 were the way the judges scored that. Virgil Ortiz, he took care of business against Thomas Delorme. Body shot put Delorme down and out. 2 minutes and 39 seconds in the first round. That sets up a fight with Tim Tszyu, scheduled for August 3rd in Los Angeles, California. And another fight on that card. It saddens me to say this, because I was such a fan of his, but Oscar Duarte improved to 28-2 with a draw and 22 knockouts when he beat the snot out of my man Jojo Diaz. It was finally stopped at 2 minutes and 32 seconds of the ninth round. Jojo drops to 33 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, 15 of his wins coming by knockout, and he's lost 5 of his last 6. That's what happens. Give a shout out to everybody that's in the chat room so far. My man Dave and Mike. Glad you could join us. And one other fight I wanted to bring up from Liverpool. Both of these events were on DAZN. Peter McGrail improved to 9-1 after he suffered a loss that he wasn't supposed to suffer, and he beat Mark Leach, who drops to 18-4 out of Liverpool, 100-90, and 2 judges saw it 99-91. Joining me right now, and we got some news to go over. I want to get my man Alex's thoughts. Is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Alex Pierpaoli. What's up, brother?
Hey, Billy C. How are you?
I hear you. You got to unmute you.
I think I thought I was.
Sounds like he's still got the mute button. Yeah, you know, this is what happens.
I tested it. See, let's see.
All the time.
Hello. There, you hear me now?
Hey, I'm starting to hear you a little bit now.
Oh, I had to mute it and unmute it. Weird.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens with these new fangled things. I just picked up a car, and I found out that You hit a button, it drives itself. It tells me when I'm not watching the road. It tells me, when to get a cup of coffee. I'm like, don't I have any control? It's like a socialist car, It wants me.
Yeah, it's funny. My car was in the shop for a while, so I was driving my mom's, and hers has all that stuff. And it was weird because sometimes it'll tell you brake, 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 and then other times I was like, boy, you didn't tell me to brake.
You become reliant on it. The thing is it starts to, tell me, like, if I want to be a real jerk and really ride up on somebody's butt because they cut me off, the car stops. I almost went through my windshield. I was like, what's up with that? But Dave is in the chat room right now, so that's good to see. But anyway, let's get started before we get into the Canelo Alvarez and Munguia. Okay, am I saying it wrong? Jaime Munguia.
Jaime Munguia.
Munguia. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Munguia. Right.
Munguia.
I know I get beat up for that. All right. Hey, I don't know if you heard the news, but Mike Tyson and Jake Paul is now a sanctioned professional fight. Now, I don't know exactly what that means, Alex, because we all knew that it was going to be 14-ounce gloves and 2-minute rounds, 8 2-minute rounds. But since Texas, of all places, has approved it, now they're saying that by sanctioned, it's going to go on their records, right? But are they going to have judges now? Because from what I had heard originally was that they weren't going to have any judges, so the fight would either end in a draw or it could end by a knockout.
Yeah.
What did you hear?
That's what I had originally heard, was that it would be 16-ounce gloves, headgear, no judges. It could end in a knockout, 2-minute rounds, and I think it was originally going to be 5, but I think now it's 2-minute, 8 rounds, 2-minute rounds.
No headgear.
No headgear. Okay, well, see, a lot of these things are like, be careful what you wish for, Jake Paul. Because I would want the headgear and I would want the 16-ounce gloves.
But have you seen Jake Paul? Obviously these guys aren't going on Nevada, because this guy, he's definitely juiced up. I mean, come on. He's got veins popping out of his forehead, for gosh sakes,
Yeah, but I think that that's not going to help him against a speedy guy like Mike Tyson. It could. I don't know. I mean,
look, we got guys like you and I have to put the love for Mike Tyson aside for a second. The reality is he's 60. He's going to be close.
He's like 58. He's bordering on 60. By the time it happens, I think he will be 58.
Yeah,
because his birthday is June 30th.
Yeah, and I can vouch for the age myself, and it starts to really go down quick as you age, So, but Mike Tyson does look pretty fantabulous in the video shots that I've seen.
He does look good, and he's very fast. I really see it ending on a left hook to the body, because I don't think that Jake Paul, even if he's training very hard, I don't think he's ever been hit like this, like he will be. 14-ounce gloves or not. However, the longer the fight goes, the worse it is for Mike.
Yes.
Like you said, it's very hard to know what to compare this to, but we do have the exhibition versus Roy Jones to look at. It's much easier to sort of quantify Jake Paul than it is to quantify Mike Tyson, because the clips we see of Tyson training, as soon as that clip ends, they're like 3-second clips. He could be standing there, so you don't know what's going to happen. 2-minute rounds at 58 years old might be a long time. Now, you've seen him doing sprints. Again, it's a sprint. And even that, a lot of people were very critical about his technique, but that was one of the things. Mike Tyson is the kind of guy who he launches himself into training. So he was sprinting probably before he should have been. Ease into it. You're 58, Mike.
And I tell you the one thing I know, that he's serious. I mean, I know he's serious. He stopped smoking weed.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, I saw a video of him at these big events. He's, got a big stogie, he's smoking with everybody. And, he's serious. But I agree. I think if it's not just a collection of a paycheck, because let's face it, the dude, Mike Tyson's making $20 million, So, I mean, if it's not just going to be a lot of hype and then a Roy Jones type of a fight, then yeah, it's going to be terrible. But if Mike Tyson really does want to win, I would expect him to go out there like Mike Tyson used to and try and take Jake Paul's head off in the first, 30 seconds of the fight. And if that doesn't happen, I agree that the longer the fight goes, the more chance Jake Paul actually has.
Right. And I think if you do look at the Roy Jones fight, the Roy Jones exhibition with Tyson did go hard. However, that was an exhibition. And if you notice, Mike Tyson threw almost 0 right hands to the head. And that was probably an agreement.
That definitely was an agreement. They were not allowed to go for the head, and if they did, the fight was going to be stopped. Roy Jones admitted that. Plus, Roy Jones also admitted that he was spitting up blood for two or 3 days after the fight.
I think that speaks volumes to the fact that yes, he's old, and Roy was, even when they interviewed them afterwards, he was saying that his ribs were already hurting. So. Right. I think that if Mike Tyson just concentrates on the body of Jake Paul, I don't think this fight's going to go very long, because no one can take those Mike Tyson body shots for very long. And, he is speedy. And even though Jake Paul's big, the punches, the thing that always gave Mike Tyson an advantage against other heavyweights was that he used the size disadvantage as an advantage, because he was coming in so low, you can't sort of hit his body, and he's coming in at an angle very quickly. That's why there was so much clinching, because he's coming in so close and attacking the ribs that you have no choice but to hold him. So I do think that's the way I see it ending. Is I do think it'll be a knockout for Tyson, a body shot knockout, and Mike goes really gentle, and it goes the full distance. And it's just, I got no problem with it. Some people are so appalled, like, why give this guy a shot? The world we live in today, he's popular.
He promoted it. You got to give him credit. He's getting 30. Tyson's getting 20. Tyson,
and it's free, which is beautiful. Thank God. There's going to be so many pay-per-views between now and then. I just got my tax refund. It's basically dedicated to pay-per-views.
You get something back. our lovely government, I'm forced to pay. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think it's going to boil down to if Mike Tyson can still successfully cut the ring off and get Jake Paul in the spot that he needs to be. So
yeah,
he can
I think, in fact, I don't think Jake Paul, what is he, 6'2"? That's good for Mike, because Mike always had difficulties with the guys that were like 6'4" and above. The fact that he's not so tall makes it better.
The only guy that he had trouble with was a monster was Lennox Lewis.
Right, but even I think that even like guys like even Mitch Green, some of those guys, Tony Tucker, he had to he didn't look like Mike Tyson through the whole fight, because he was so small, he did have to sort of punch up, and they fought in a style that he was a little less effective. And if you look at his last fight, it's as sad.
The one on your wall,
with that great,
I'll never forgive you for
that great Emily Harney photo. That was a fight I never understood why Shelley Finkel made, because
it wasn't supposed to end like that.
Well, yeah, but I think that he should have known that there was problems with that matchup. Yes, Kevin McBride was nothing to be impressed about. However, he was gigantic, and Mike Tyson was not at the point in his life where he could land in his career, where he could handle a great big gigantic guy leaning on him and having to leap up to hit him. He was just too big, too tall of an opponent for Mike. Mike was always better with, you know, what today would be considered more like a medium-sized heavyweight, which would be like, 6'2", 220. He was not like good.
He was just like Little Joe in the Punch-Out. He jumping up.
Right.
I will say this: if you want to see him fight a big guy, watch the video of him fighting Sammy Schaff. He practically killed him.
Yeah. See,
all right.
I think that's what they were hoping for, but at that point in Mike's, even Sammy Schaff was more of a moving guy. McBride is just a stand there, great big glom, leans on you, and it was like hitting a brick wall.
Because Sammy Schaff was moving all right, like a tree after you cut it. Boom. All right, I got a couple other things I want to get into Canelo stuff. So it just came out yesterday that Ryan Garcia, who I was so happy for him, just came out. He tested positive for performance enhancing drugs, and he's saying it's wrong, that the people are setting him up. Right. Devin Haney said, "See, I knew there was a reason I lost." And Golden Boy, I love their put out the fire statement. They said, Ryan has put out multiple statements. You notice how all of a sudden there's a separation, right? Ryan has put out multiple statements denying knowingly. This is where Golden Boy slipped in a legal word, right? Knowingly using any banned substances. And we believe him. We're working with his team to determine how this finding came to be, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So knowingly and testing positive, there's that gray area. It was in that shake I had that somebody gave me. So interesting. I don't think it takes, as bad as this sounds, I don't think it takes anything away from Ryan's accomplishment. Although people would disagree with me, but we'll see. Deontay Wilder is already scheduled to fight Zhilei Zhang June 1st, from all reports I see. But he's fighting Zhilei Zhang June 1st, but he's already scheduled to fight Jared Anderson on August 3rd. And I'm a little confused, Alex, because Zhang happens to be the favorite in this fight. The bookmakers have him as a minus 190 on this fight, and Deontay hasn't really looked even anything of himself, which was never that great to begin with, except for his power. And they're already looking forward to a matchup with Anderson.
That's ridiculous. I'm looking forward to the Zhang fight, Wilder Zhang, and I definitely think Zhang will win. So
hey, Alex, I know you're the English major here, but I got to correct you.
Is it Zhilei Zhang?
It's pronounced Zhang. Okay.
Zhang. Okay.
Here I am correcting somebody of how to say something, but I learned that the hard way.
It's not a soft A.
It was easy for me to remember that one. Zhang. Okay. Like King Zong. No.
Oh, because it's XAANG or XONG.
ZH.
ZH.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. My bad. I apologize.
Maybe that's what I
really Zhang.
Zhang. I think it is.
I think he beats Wilder. But I think that fight, I'm looking forward to that fight. I think it's gonna be fun.
I don't think so. I don't think he look, everybody's got all of this. They all say how powerful Zhang is and all this stuff. But here's the thing. He can't move, Alex. He doesn't move. And he's slow as molasses. So if you're standing there and you let him clobber you, I think Joseph Parker showed that movement and hand speed was the death of Zhang. Now, with that said, Deontay has no footwork and he doesn't do anything, but he does throw punches from crazy angles. And he does have somewhat hand speed. I think it's going to be a matter of can Zhilei withstand the power, because if he can, then I agree with you that Wilder he'll catch up to Wilder eventually. And Zhang is always tired after every round. By the time the round is over, by that third minute of the rounds, he's huffing and puffing. But he does it for the whole 12 rounds. He acts like that. But I don't know. It's an intriguing fight.
Yeah, I think they're two gigantic men. So I'm looking forward to seeing it because it's going to look like the Hulk versus the Thing, and I'm basically a 13-year-old, so I like that kind of thing. But
wait a minute, are you referring to the Thing, or just
the
that
thing.
kind of thing? Oh,
the Thing.
Okay, no.
I was trying to explain this to a kid the other day. I kept saying, "Oh, is that the Thing?" And she was like, "What? What thing?" I was like, "The Thing."
Yeah.
I was like, "Is it Ben Grimm?"
Yeah. All right. I
wanted to say something about the Garcia fight. So disappointed in that. It's interesting from what I read briefly. It doesn't seem like it's even a steroid that shows up in other things. So it's like one of those steroids that is chiefly for anabolic use. It's not like it's going to be in the salmon or in this piece of chicken. Oh my God, I ate so much of this chicken. I tested positive. So it seems like from what I read that it's one of those things where if you test positive for this, you took it to enhance your performance. We know the kid has problems with the weight classes. That was already.
I'll tell you what he doesn't have problems with. Women.
No. And I think one of the things that's interesting is I was looking at some of the side effects and it was like, nausea, diarrhea. And I was like, it doesn't say bizarre social media behavior is one of the side effects.
And then did you say, hold on, let me call Teddy Atlas.
But I do think, it's really unfortunate because the kid really, really put in a great performance. I didn't think it was a very electrifying fight. It was an exciting fight, but it wasn't a great fight. It
became a great fight.
It became very interesting and very exciting. But it was so much holding.
What I mean, Alex, was during the fight, I agree with you. I kept wondering why he stopped throwing punches and all this stuff.
Oh, and the way he would turn his back.
Oh, that was ridiculous. Was ridiculous. But after the fight, it became a beating. He gave him a beating. Like it was the fish that was 6 inches that became 2 feet.
Well, that's what he's good at, right? That's what social media is about. It's fake news.
Well, I don't think it's I really don't think it's going to tarnish his.
It's not with his fans.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. So,
but he will probably end up with a no contest, which he certainly deserves.
He doesn't care about that.
And one of the things about it is I had him winning only by 1 point. I thought the cards were a little lopsided. However, he was the guy landing heavier. So power is always hard to see on television. When you're there in person, you definitely get more of a sense of the guy who's landing harder shots.
Yes.
So it could be that those rounds didn't look as close in person because Garcia was landing heavier. I had Devin Haney winning almost every single round that he didn't get dropped in. And Devin Haney is a freaking pit bull, man, because there was a couple of times where I was like, he could just don't get up. You're getting beat up. But he finished that fight, and
if he didn't try to hook with the hooker, he would have outboxed him.
Yeah, I think he took that. He didn't take it seriously enough that left hook's going to be a problem.
But he was watching for
Remember when we talked to Bernard Hopkins? One of the things that Bernard Hopkins had said when he fought Tito Trinidad was like, when you're fighting a guy with a gun, and Tito had that left hook, you got to get to the gun. You got to keep remembering he's got a gun. And so Bernard, his whole strategy was like, don't let him use that gun. Devin Haney didn't think of that because in that first round, he uses the gun on him. And then he never even adapted. He kept getting hit with the left hook.
It might have been no shoes. What was up with that? But
that was weird too.
Yeah, he's wearing Uggs. But anyway, it looked like it. Speaking of Garcia, Derek James, his new trainer, is suing Errol Spence because he hasn't gotten paid from any of those fights. That's interesting.
Wow.
And a couple other things real quick. Huey, not Huey Lewis in the news, not baby Huey, but no, Huey Fury is heading back to the ring in a couple of weeks. May 11th, he's taking on a German fighter, Patrick Corte, as he tries to get back in the mix. Fury, as you know, is 27-3 with 15 knockouts, and big Patrick Corte is 21-3-1. So we'll be checking that out. A kid that I've been keeping an eye on that is fun to watch. I don't know how his antics are going to carry as he goes up in level of opposition, but Ben Whitaker, I don't know if you've seen this guy. He's out of the UK. He's going to be fighting June 15th. And we'll see if he continues looking good, because he does look good. He's taken on the African King, who's 12-0. That's his nickname. His last name is Arenka. So African King Arenka. So we'll see about that. And finally, last but not least, so we can start talking about Canelo and Munguia. One of your favorite guys, at least when we were together in Vegas, and you were just couldn't get your eyes off his shirt, but Cobbs, your man Cobbs, Blair Cobbs.
You did have a great shirt, huh?
Yeah, and I said to him, would you tell him about that shirt, because you were like drooling over it. But
he had a really cool shirt on.
Right after the show last week, it was officially announced by Don King Promotions that Adrian Broner is going to be taking on Cobbs. Now, Broner is a shell of himself. Okay. I mean, we all know that. And I've heard I'm not going to repeat it, but I've heard some pretty damning comments about the shape he's in and everything else. But, if he doesn't beat, no offense to Cobbs, but if he doesn't beat Cobbs, Alex, and again, no disrespect to Blair Cobbs, but I mean, we should be, these two guys shouldn't be in the same ring. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that I know who I'll be rooting for. The guy with the nice shirt in that fight.
No, everybody will. Nobody likes
Well, it's very common for Adrian Broner to show up at a press conference without a shirt, right? So it's going to be the shirted versus the shirtless.
Hey, before you finish that thought, I got my man Randy Gordon is in the chat room, and he's saying, now he's a New York guy, and he's saying if Garcia does indeed test positive, which he has, but I guess they're running it through to make sure it was, that he thinks a minimum 1-year suspension is appropriate.
Yeah.
That's thanks for that comment, Randy. The thing is with that, does that become, is it a VADA issue? Is it a contract issue? Is it a New York State Athletic Commission issue? I mean, you could probably say yes to all of those things, but we don't know what that contract said, and it doesn't seem like it's bothering Garcia that much.
Well, yeah, because I think about it, he is popular enough that no matter what happens to him, this guy gave away $1.5 million like it was nothing. So I think he realizes that he is a commodity that's going to make enough money to sort of recoup whatever damages, that are
yeah, but
suffers. However, I think I think it's a big mistake. I mean, you don't want to, no fight. It's not good for any fighter to sit on a shelf for a year.
I was just going to say, if Randy's right and he gets a suspension, and remember,
he should. I think he should.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that. But it's just like the other big baby, he was suspended, and putting Garcia on the shelf, I think that could definitely hurt his pocketbook. But I could see him doing something else. Maybe fighting bare knuckle or something crazy. I mean, you never know with that guy.
MMA. Yeah. I think the thing about it, especially with steroids, is that because boxing, other than the Association of Boxing Commissions, there's no like uniform rules and uniform governing body. When it comes to steroids, I think we need to take a stand that's everybody abides by, because of the dangers of this is, and I remember Lou DiBella talking about this, how when it comes to steroids, sure, in baseball, in any sport, people should be concerned about it, because you're enhancing the strength of how hard you can impact something. We're not hitting baseballs here. We're hitting people in the head. So yeah, I think that the stance needs to be a firm one. And I think he's, it's really, of all the jackassery of that week, if that's a word, of that fight week, this is by far the most, because he really took one of the best moments of the year in that victory, and he's completely sullied it.
Well, I'm going to say something. I've said this in the past over the years. I mean, geez, we've been doing the show 21 years now, and I've said this before, and I know a lot of people disagree with it, right? But with steroids, now I agree with you 100%. In boxing, I mean, you're trying to knock your opponent out. I mean, that's it's not hitting a home run, 500 feet, but or football, but I think the worst part is if me and you are fighting and you take steroids and I don't, and then you have an edge. My feeling has always been, look, it's either they get, like you suggest, they get real strict, make sure that, nobody, and somebody's got to come up with a faster way to detect it so that you can determine if a fighter is on steroids or any athlete is on steroids prior to that event, that fight, that game, whatever, rather than having to wait several days for something like this to pop, because then you could say, hey, so-and-so tested positive. What do you want to do? You want to back out of the fight and then put the burden on the other guy, no, I'll still take the fight. Then nobody can say anything,
Well, we already had that even with this one, because and that was another way that Devin Haney stepped up, because he had the decision that, this guy's 3 pounds heavy. Do you want to even continue with this fight? And he said, yeah.
Right. No,
on that.
Yeah, and then and by the way, he's also tested positive for steroids. So he's not only 3 pounds,
and he's kind of a jerk.
Yeah, and when he takes off his shirt, you're gonna notice a lot more muscles. That's good.
Yeah, he's got muscles under his eyelids.
Yeah. But my other thought is, let them all use it then. If they want to do it, let them all. So if me and you are gonna fight, and we know that we're gonna have steroids, because somebody's gonna find a way and I know it's happening in professional sports now. Now we're totally off topic, but I know it's happening in professional sports that, what these guys have to do is they have to put the actual substance that's banned, right? So with these designer PEDs that are able to be made, all somebody has to do is come up with a mixture, formula, whatever, that's not on the list.
Yeah.
And then they'll add it to the list later after they say, oh, geez, there's another one, but that's how, so I'm sure there's people that are cheating like that are able to take substances that just aren't on the, you're not allowed to take it list, So, I mean, I don't think you can ever control it because, of the way that sports, boxing, every sport is competitive. That's the whole nature of it, and you're going to have people that, I mean, in baseball, to, shave a little off the baseball, have put a little oil on it, the glove. Now they're inspecting gloves after every inning, it's so I mean, yes, guys and girls are going to want to try to have an edge, so I mean, at some point, hey, you want to risk, Lyle Alzado type brain damage? You want to, do this, do that? Well, it's up to you,
Yeah, and
I know it sounds terrible, but
well, and I think because I've heard people mention that, where if you really wanted to test everyone, that you'd be looking at empty stadiums, and they call the game, and there'd be like 3 guys come out who are actually natural. Everybody else is doing something, and it is this sort of chemical arms race where the drugs are getting harder and harder to find because they'll mix different things. I don't know. It is. I think VADA seems to be the best of the testing bodies. They're the ones who catch everybody. They're the ones who use some of the best screening methods. I think once we know who tests positive, we need the punishments to be severe. I do think. Oh, one thing I did want to say is hearing Randy Gordon. It makes me remember one of the things that I always loved when I first started following the sport is he would list the Randy's reach, which I always thought was very cool because, we always measure wingspan for fighters, and that doesn't really make sense. He would measure the jabbing arm, and I'd love to know the Randy's reach of Zhilei Zhang versus Wilder, because those two guys are two monsters. This is probably like in the 40s.
Randy, in order for Randy to take that measurement, he needs a stepladder and an extra roll of
those are just two big guys.
measuring tape. All right, the big fight this weekend, Jaime Munguia is taking on Saul Canelo Alvarez. I will break it all down a little bit later, but I've been talking about this fight since it came out. And I've been ridiculed. I've been picked on. I've been, because I think it's going to be a competitive fight. And the reason why I think it's going to be a competitive fight is what they say. Styles make fights. And Canelo Alvarez, we've seen, you and I saw him up close in Vegas. I saw him do the same thing to Daniel Jacobs that he did to Sergey Kovalev and most other people. This is a guy that likes to get in your wheelhouse, work the body, and over time take you out. Okay. I mean, he hasn't had as many knockouts as he has gone up in weight as he used to. He does possess boxing skill, but I don't think he's got boxing skill. Like, I wouldn't call him a boxer. I would call him a boxer puncher maybe, but I would be more of a body assassin and breaks you down. So he wants to be in your wheelhouse. Jaime Munguia, on the other hand, is the same. This is a guy that virtually has no defense, zero defense. I saw a comment from Teddy Atlas, and he's going, as a trainer, this I'd be telling this guy, no defense. He says, but as a fan, he says, let's bring it on because it's going to be exciting, And I think that because he's young, he takes a lot of punches. And he's willing to take the punches, which we all know as a fighter ages, they have to stop being so willing to take punches. But I think for this fight, it's a 6-year age difference. I think it's going to be fought in a phone booth, and it's going to come down to who's got the better chin, who's got the stronger punch, and who's in better shape. And I think Canelo is in better shape, but he has tired of his last couple of fights. He does seem to take rounds off now, which he never did. I don't think this is a walk in the park the way a lot of people are saying it, Alex. I mean, I really don't. I think it is going to be a fan-friendly fight. I don't see Canelo Alvarez knocking this kid out. I don't. I see Canelo Alvarez winning a decision, but I don't see him knocking him out. But I do see Munguia, if he wins this fight, it's going to be by knockout or, he drops Canelo a couple of times. What's your initial thoughts on the matchup?
I'm really looking forward to it because I do think it will be competitive, probably for a while. I think I'm leaning towards Canelo because I do think, he's the more skilled guy. However, this is a matchup I really like because Munguia is young and he's big and he throws a lot of punches. And Canelo is a very, very good counterpuncher. And the way you beat a counterpuncher is like having this really great missile defense system. Well, how do you beat a missile defense system? You lob a lot of missiles at it. So that, and what kind of a guy can do that? A guy exactly like Munguia. He throws a lot of punches. So when you're throwing a lot of punches at a counterpuncher, the counterpuncher has to make decisions that he's not used to making because he tends to react and look for openings with every single shot. Well, now there's so much coming at him. he's having more difficulty doing that. The thing is that Munguia cannot get lazy, and he cannot, because like you said, I think Canelo, and also because he's smaller, Canelo is very dangerous in close. He hits to the body so well. So Munguia is going to have to sort of keep him outside a bit and use his longer arms and just really just strafe at him from a distance. And when he gets in, just tie him up and keep him back out there. Munguia does not have great footwork. So, and those are, if you think about it with Bivol, those are the two things that Bivol really had. He moves well and he has an incredible jab. Munguia's jab is good, but it's almost like he uses it more to set everything else up. So he has to be bold and he has to keep putting pressure on him. And you're right. I think the Canelo of today has diminished a bit.
Yes.
He's not the guy who beat Sergey Kovalev. And even if you think about that fight with Sergey Kovalev was doing well until Canelo caught him. And then once he caught him, that was it.
There was also weight, rehydration clauses, and Kovalev didn't look like Kovalev, but he was never the same after that fight. Munguia isn't a guy that, in my opinion, possesses boxing skill like a boxer.
He's more of a puncher, just a real busy puncher.
He's definitely a puncher. So, and Canelo's not a boxer either. He really isn't. I
think of him as a counterpuncher.
Oh yeah,
really smart, clever counterpuncher.
And I've seen when other fighters do smother him, like you said, the volume of punches would be advantageous to Munguia. It's not only it seems to have worked for other fighters against Canelo for at least some of the fight, but he stops throwing punches, when he goes into protect mode, protecting himself. That might be right into Munguia's game plan, and then the other part is, Munguia has gotten better. Here's a case of a fighter that's improving. Plus, he's got youth on his side, and then you got Canelo. And no disrespect to Canelo, because in the last 20 years, there's not another fighter that has fought the level of opposition that Canelo has. I mean, I see a lot of stuff on social media. Oh, he's picking another bum. Oh, he's just like Mayweather. He's cherry picking. When I reviewed everything, and went through his career, you can't say that about Canelo. He's fought guys that are all relevant in the sport at the time when he fought them. So I don't know about that, but I do think Father Time, knowing that Father Time is undefeated, and we all know that a fighter ages right before our eyes. I just think that this matchup, it kind of favors Munguia. I don't know. I feel I have this strange feeling about it. I put a couple of bucks on it too, but the line is unbelievable on it, But
yeah, I mean, I think that if anybody's a live dog, it's certainly Munguia. He's ranked number 4 in the world by the Transnational Boxing Rankings Board, which is the rankings that I prefer. And I do think that he's young, he's hungry. The only thing about him, he's been in a war with Derevyanchenko, what I thought was the fight of the year last year. That was just an incredible fight. And excuse me, Derevyanchenko kind of hurt him more than once. And Derevyanchenko is smaller. He's more of a middleweight. Canelo is not a huge bruiser. He's got plenty of power, and he's got explosiveness. Like, he'll get right up in close and then bang. He breaks your orbital bone or something. He's quick. He's got that kind of real twitchy power, If Canelo hurts him, Munguia, I think, is young enough and tough enough that maybe he can weather it.
I think he's banking on that.
Yeah. So whereas we haven't really, other than Golovkin, I can't really remember somebody who's tested Canelo's chin. And Golovkin, I mean, if you think about wars that Canelo's been in, the first two Golovkin fights were the closest to wars that he was in. So he's diminished more for, he's been in this sport for so long. He trains, he gets in shape, he trains, he gets in shape, that kind of thing. That kind of wear and tear. I mean, how long he can do that? He's been doing it since he's been, 13 or 14 years old. And he hasn't looked. The other thing that I think maybe works against him is sort of like a situation with Roy Jones. Remember when Roy Jones went up to heavyweight, then came back to light heavyweight? Then he met a guy named Antonio Tarver. Could Jaime Munguia be Canelo's Antonio Tarver? Maybe. So I don't know. I think that's why it's going to be a fun fight, but I'm kind of picking Canelo either by unanimous decision or late round stoppage, but with a lot of fun, especially in the first 8. Very competitive, very enjoyable first 8 rounds.
Well, here's a couple of other little tidbits. First of all, Canelo has been with the same team, so we're not going to see there's no surprises coming our way from Canelo, in my opinion. We're going to see Canelo, and Canelo's Canelo. You know, it's like in football. Okay, here we go. You know, we're lining up. Here's all our big guys. We're running the ball. We need a yard. We're running right to you. You stop us. And I think that's Canelo's, mental approach. But there's two things that Munguia brings to the table. One, I'm really surprised I'm even going to say, but one is the whole Mexican versus Mexican thing. You know, maybe a lot of, especially the youths of today, don't realize it, but that is a huge pride thing for Mexican fighters. And, that always brings them out, steps them up, clicks them up a notch, and, you got that. That's going to be going head to head with both of these guys, so that's an asterisk. And then the other thing is Freddie Roach. Is Freddie Roach, and that's the thing I was shocked I was even going to say, is Freddie Roach still able to bring out something in a fighter? I mean, he was so successful with Manny Pacquiao. But as his disease is eating away at him, his communication skills are not that great. You have a somewhat of a language barrier. I mean, in the last several years, you constantly see someone else interpreting what Freddie is saying to the fighters, and then if you have a different language, I mean, that's just another layer of communication that can get lost. Are those two things going to bring anything to this fight? And, obviously Freddie Roach is a good trainer. Has he been able to fine tune Munguia a little bit? Because I agree, he's got no footwork, no movement, no movement, no head movement. Did he work on that? And did he get enough time where Munguia is going to listen? Because when a fighter gets in trouble, as well as I, they revert back to what comes as quick and as natural to them. And if just going in there with your head first, chin out, is what you're used to doing, that's what you're going to revert to.
Well, I think if they worked on head movement, added some head movement to Munguia's arsenal in this training camp, that's going to work wonders. That would really be great. And we won't know until Saturday night. But because I think that will benefit. I love head movement.
Nobody does it anymore.
Right. It's definitely one of those things that you don't see as often. So I think it would work wonders in this fight because it would allow Munguia to rely on something other than his legs to get out of the way of punches. And I think that would be great. And he could stay where he is, use the head movement, and keep punching.
See, that's the problem.
Tie him up, and I think that would be great. And think about it, head movement is a much more offensive-minded defensive strategy, whereas using your legs tends to be you have to use your legs to sort of disengage. Whereas with the head movement, you can stay close and go back and forth. And
head movement too could be used as a timing mechanism for your offensive attack, you know.
And we know Freddie Roach, that's his style of training. He loves offense. So
well, that's why this seems to be a good match. But I mean, Munguia, you know, I've never seen him move his head. I've never seen him get out of harm's way. The Derevyanchenko fight that you were referring to, he took some hellacious shots and never moved. I mean, you know, he continues to take them, you know, and I think, you know, he's relying on that youth and that chin, and you know that could hurt him in this fight. But I think it's going to be one hell of an entertaining fight. I just wish that the undercard had something on it, you know. I mean, the rest of that card isn't that great. I mean, I'm saying to myself, you know, is it really worth the money? I mean, because you know you can watch it the next day, you know. But
yeah, see, I don't like that.
I
need to know. I need to know.
Oh no, listen, with the advent of recording and all that stuff, I go to bed. I'm in my feety pajamas by 7-8 o'clock, you know, and I could go to bed, wake up, just not turn a computer or a phone on, you know, and then play that fight like it's live.
No, see, I drink a big thing. I found this dark roast that I love, Komodo Dragon coffee, and I drink this big goblet full of that, and I'm wired all night long. And after the Garcia Haney fight, I was like, well, I'm up, and I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I had never seen that, so I was up to like 4 a.m.
You know, that movie,
and then I like ruined myself for the rest of the week.
That movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, was kind of crazy how they did that. I thought that could have been, some people could have gotten upset with that, but
I didn't like the ending. I kept thinking, well, wait a minute. What's going to happen? Is this going to be a really sad ending? And somehow we're going to see these two guys who could have done something somehow fail to stop the inevitable. And they went in a totally different direction. And I thought it was so ridiculous.
I would have thought that would have been something you liked, especially that the woman that wouldn't die in the pool. I mean, how many times did you have to?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny, but it was not. I don't know. I just, to me, the realism went totally out the window, and it just got so dumb. But I as much as I didn't care, because you know me, I think Bruce Lee is a god. I didn't care for how they treated Bruce Lee. However, I love what Bruce Lee was saying, because remember, he was talking about the Clay Liston fight, and he was saying how he was giving them tremendous respect, and talking about how that's fighting. And I did dig that.
Well, he did. The family, I heard, got mad at the way they portrayed Bruce Lee. But all right, I'm going to just do this real quick. So, Saul Canelo Alvarez, all right? He's 60 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. His 2 losses, the first one came at the hands of Floyd Mayweather Jr., a majority decision, close fight. And the second one came at the hands of Dimitri Bivol, a unanimous decision not too long ago. His 2 draws, well, a split decision draw in his 5th professional fight way back in 2006. And then against Triple G, that I kind of thought Triple G won that fight in 2017. He, by the computer, has him ranked number 1 in the world. He is the world super middleweight champion, holding all of the belts there. He was also a former world junior middleweight, and light heavyweight world champion. You know, when I looked at this guy, he's 33 years old, 5'8", 70.5-inch reach, 484 rounds, 285 more rounds than Munguia has in his pro. His knockout ratio is 65%, but it's been a little lower of late. I started looking, just glancing through his record. So here's an interesting statistic. In the last 14 years, all right, this will be his 31st fight in 14 years, okay? I go through the list, Alex, And there's 3 fighters I pull out of the last 14 years, 3 that weren't elite fighters.
Wow.
Like I was just saying, like they weren't garbage fighters, but they weren't elite fighters. All the rest of them, you look through it. I mean, Triple G, Bivol, Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, all relevant at the time that he fought him. Callum Smith, Kovalev, Danny Jacobs, Rocky Fielding. Remember Rocky Fielding? No, they didn't even give him a chance against that when he first fought him because he was moving up in weight. Julio Cesar Chavez. Okay, he was never an elite fighter, but it was the last Mexican versus Mexican fight. Amir Khan, Miguel Cotto, James Kirkland. When James Kirkland was a scared, everybody was scared of him. Ursulandi Lara, Alfredo Angulo, who was a monster. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, the guy has fought everybody, and you can't criticize him. Now he steps in the ring against Jaime Munguia, who's also got a impressive record: 43 wins, no losses, 34 of his wins coming by knockout. He's the current WBC silver world super middleweight champion. What is that? Their version of the interim. So they had to throw a belt at him. He's got the silver belt.
I don't know. You get 2 of those, you get a large fry with.
Yeah, you get 2 of those, you get a large fry. He's 6 years younger than Canelo. He's 27 years old. I didn't realize that he had such a height advantage. He's between 3.5 and 4 inches taller. He's listed at 6 foot. The computer that I have him ranked at number 3 in the world. All 4 sanctioning bodies have him ranked, but they're all over the place. WBC and WBO have him ranked at number 1. WBA has him at number 6. The IBF has him at number 8. We're getting asked, do we think they're going to go under 10.5 rounds? I'll give you my exact prediction in a minute, Jess. So hang tight. Now, when I look at Munguia's record, he certainly hasn't faced the level of opposition that Canelo has. And I agree with you. The Sergey Deverenchenko fight, I believe it did get Fighter of the Year. Somebody voted it Fighter of the Year, but that was a fantastic fight. And it really shouldn't have been if you thought about it, but it was. He's got that win. He's got the win over John Ryder, which
he stopped him. Canelo couldn't.
Right, but now I was in Vegas for a couple of Canelo's big fights, and one of them, Ryder was. I think it was the Daniel Jacobs fight. Ryder was on that card. It was actually the first time I ever saw John Ryder, and he was impressive there. But when you look at the rest of his record, I mean, he fought Gabe Rosado. Gabe Rosado's a tough out, and he couldn't take him out. He went the distance, but I give him credit for that. Torino Johnson, this guy was on his way up in boxing, man.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden he fell. But I give him credit for that fight. I give him credit for Brandon Cook. I give him credit for Gary Spike O'Sullivan. So he's had some decent fights, but nowhere's near the level of opposition that Saul Canelo Alvarez has faced. The odds maker sees Canelo at -500 and Munguia at plus 400, which right off the bat the bookies they got the juice in the middle there. But how do I see this fight going? Well, I've been talking about it a long time. I like the fight. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, and I think it's going to be a fun fight to watch. To answer Jess's question, do I think the fight's going to go under 10.5 rounds? Which is easier said 10.5. But the truth of the matter is, I think if Munguia wins this fight, I think it's going to be by stoppage. And I do think that it probably would go at least to the 10th round if he should get a stoppage victory. Maybe even some really Cinderella story in the 12th or something like that. It's a tough bet. I wouldn't take the under in this fight because I feel that if this fight goes in the it goes the distance, it's going to be a Canelo fight. Plus, he's got the judges in his pocket. But I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm predicting an upset, and it's not because I sunk a half a G on this fight, but I think that it is like Oscar De La Hoya says, and he's praying. I think Oscar and Saul would put on a good fight right now. They really hate each other. Watching those guys in the press and also in on the videos, it's pretty funny. But I'm going to go on a limb. I'm predicting an upset here. I think Munguia is going to win this fight. I don't think he's going to win by decision, but I think he is going to shock everybody, and he's going to get a late round stoppage, 11th or 12th. I just have this feeling. I've had the feeling since they made the announcement of this fight. And I also want to point out one other thing. Alvarez didn't want this fight. Alvarez wanted the other Charlo brother, okay? But he was criticized so much in the press. I wanted to see him fight TC. I wanted him to fight Crawford. I think Crawford would beat Canelo. I really do. Forget the size. I think he would outbox him. But the other option he had was David Benavidez, and David Benavidez might be too big for Canelo. I think that he took this fight because he really was against the wall. I really don't know if he likes this fight, if he feels so confident. I know he's predicting that he's going to win by knockout. Canelo is. I don't see it. I see Munguia with a huge upset. That's my prediction. What's your thoughts, bro?
I like your pick. I would say that I think, as I said, I think that the key to this fight for Munguia is to be busy, throw a lot of punches. However, the problem with throwing a lot of punches at a good counterpuncher is, yes, you have a chance of overwhelming him, but you're also giving him a lot of opportunities. And I think that's sort of, you have to find a middle ground in there somewhere. And I think Canelo, like you said, he's seen everything. He's been in there with everybody. I think that the gulf in skill, even though you got to give the young, the youth, the boldness, the activity level, maybe even the strength and size to Munguia, Canelo has got oodles of skill, oodles of experience.
But how much more drive?
And well, that's the thing. I don't think at his point, it's kind of like that old Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, is that the wolf on the hill coming up the hill is hungrier than the wolf on the top of the hill. But for the wolf on the top of the hill, when he wants the food, it's there. And I think that's the case, is that there's nothing this wolf is going to bring Canelo that he hasn't seen and dealt with before. So I do think that I'm leaning towards Canelo. I think he can get a stoppage just because Munguia gets hit enough. I'm certainly rooting for Munguia. I don't think, like that question in the in the chat, that over under is too high. I don't think I would say. I think because even if you look at the Kovalev KO, I think that was in the 11th round. So yeah, I wouldn't bet the under. Even though that's what Canelo promised, is that he's saying an 8-round stoppage. I do think Canelo wins. I'm going to say knockout. I think it's going to be a lot of fun before that. I think you're right in terms of Benavidez. This could be a warm up for Benavidez because, he's bigger, he's strong and young. And maybe, we get the Benavidez fight in September. But I kind of think that you're right. I think, Benavidez is bigger, just a little too big for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he fought Terrence Crawford at like 163 or something.
I love
that would be a fun fight, and I would lean towards Crawford.
There is absolutely zero doubt in my mind that Crawford can't beat Canelo. There is zero. I know Crawford can beat Canelo. It's just a matter of if he doesn't fight him in the next year or so, then forget it. But you brought up an interesting point, about Munguia with taking punches. A lot of this fight's going to determine the referee and how the referee is, because I watched a fight with Jack Reese the other day, listen, everybody thinks this guy is real good, and I think he's terrible. I think that this is a guy that just wants to get in a camera shot too much and is overwhelming. I like the referees that you don't even remember who they were. Now Harvey Dock, I love. He did have a bad. He did it. I was kind of laughing at some of the comments and mimes I saw of him, Harvey Dock, and the fight, because he did seem to be favoring Devin Haney a bit. But I think that the referee is going to be an important part of this fight, because if a referee jumps in and thinks that Munguia is in trouble, you're right. This could be a stoppage, and for Canelo. But we'll see. We'll see. I tell you something. If all of a sudden Munguia comes out and he's showing some kind of boxing skill or head movement, all the credit has to be given to Freddie Roach, because I've never seen it from this kid yet.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. Maybe that's something they worked on in this camp. We're going to have to find out. If it can only help him. So,
yeah. Let's see. I just want to look real quick. When his so his last fight was John Ryder in January. So, yeah. I mean, it ought to be interesting. And Canelo's last fight was September, right? So, last September. So, yeah,
I mean, I think the atmosphere is going to be tremendous, because it's Mexico versus Mexico on the American Mexican beer holiday. It's not Mexican Independence Day. That's the one in September, but this is like the
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo, right? But it's
party time.
It's more important here in American bars than it is in Mexico, I think.
Yeah. well,
free margaritas.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't decided if I'm actually going to shell out the $90 or not, or which I do every time. I'm traditionally not a pirate. It's just that, like you said, there's been a hell of a lot of
and there's one in June. The next one is Usyk Fury, and then I think there's a pay-per-view in June too, isn't there? I forget which. June we have. It might not be pay-per-view, but June we've got a lot of good fights coming up, because June we got Bam Rodriguez versus
I love that fight.
El Gallo Estrada.
Yeah.
And then actually on Monday morning, I think it's Monday morning, we've got Inoue versus Neary. So we're this is going to be good,
and that's on ESPN. But you got
so we're gonna have Joe Tessitore screaming.
Yeah, I know. You got B2B against
first thing in the morning too. Jesus.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's perfect for me. That's when I'm up.
All right, I'm up, Joe.
but yeah, right. You're looking for something to turn off, But hey, I wanna share with you online as we're signing off here two things live here. Number one, I know I mentioned to you, and I was proud to say that I was I'm part of the 2024 New York State Boxing Hall of Fame this year, which I'm really psyched and I'm happy. It is going to go 100% public next week, but mark it down on your calendar. The 15th, September 15th, is when the banquet's going to be, and you gotta go. You gotta go.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
It's in a really nice place, Russo's on the Bay. And one other thing I have here for you. I came up with something that I think is right up your alley. Actually, Dave Wilcox was in the chat room, and I want to get him back on to do a heavyweight spotlight like the old days. We're gonna get the band back together, But but what I was deciding, and I was like, Adam Pollak put out a great, his idea was to chronologically write books about the world heavyweight champions, from John L. Sullivan all the way up to modern. And he's been working diligently on it. But it kind of gave me an idea, Alex. We should do a special, the heavyweight champions by decade, starting with John L. Sullivan, and just take it in 10-year clumps, like each decade, who the champions were, what the heavyweight scene was like during that decade, who the main contenders were, and the biggest fights for that decade. And before you know it, that's 125 years at least. It's more. It's actually a little more than that. So it sounds like something fun to do. I mean, what do you think?
Definitely, I like it.
Well,
yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's cool about boxing is that we don't have a season. We go boxing's like life, and like life, we govern it by years. So that idea of using decades, I think, would be cool. One of my favorite books about boxing is by the late Phil Berger, and he called it. The name of the book is Blood Season, and that's what he did was just take like a chunk of time. And he chronicled that chunk of time that, and it was like from the Leon Spinks beating Ali to Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson beating Trevor Burbick. And that was the blood season. And I just thought that was a great idea. So the idea of using decades would be cool.
Isn't there a new promotional company from Saudi Arabia, something season?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well, they're coming over to LA, right? Aren't they doing the next event in Los Angeles?
Aren't the next two heavyweight, the Zhang Wilder fight is in Saudi Arabia, and then Usyk Fury is in Saudi Arabia, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Fury's not allowed here in the States, but they're there. But they're doing another event.
Fury's not allowed here in the States. Why not?
Yeah, it's in I forget what fight. It's a big fight. But I got so much on my. Anyway, I'm over my time. Hey, listen, Randy, I appreciate it, and thank you very much for that. And I thank everybody who nudged to get me in. I was totally so happy when I got the call from Jack. So, but anyway, hey, listen, Alex and everybody else, enjoy the fights this weekend. At least one. I'm sure the
Brandon Figueroa fight could be a good one too. I think.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, listen, that's why I love the UK boxing scene, man, because these guys are willing to fight each other early. The fans don't, write them off if they lose. They're 15-0, they lose a fight, and here in the States, he's a bum. He's finished. And the guy never fights again. It's like, wait a minute, there's nothing wrong with a loss. All of that is, and then they value a fighter that's undefeated, and they don't even look at the guys that he fought. Just because he's got the O means he's good. And I just can't stand it, and it's hard to even get into arguments with them. But anyway, we gotta go. Hey, thanks for joining us. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a post-fight show. Alex is going to send me some of that coffee. Maybe I'll
be wired. I'll be up.
but be looking for us after the fight. We might do that, but unless we don't do that, make sure you tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.